You only need the light when it's burning low. Only miss the sun when it starts to snow.
Hey guys, so I'm here to do a tag video, and I'm not sure if any of you are interested in these sorts of videos, but you know, I figured I've been getting tagged a little bit more frequently, and so I wanted to do one that I was tagged by my friend Rachel. Actually, she tagged me in the last two. Rachel from Glow of Grace, and you can find her down below. Thank you, Rachel, for tagging me, and this tag is called My First Time. Not like that, you dirty pervert. We're not gonna go into that. This is YouTube. Give me a break. My mom probably watches this. Gross, people. Come on. Anyway, so it's called My First Time, and these are the questions. Do you still talk to your first love? No, I do not. He was my high school boyfriend, and I last saw him when I was like 22, and he had gone into the army, and we just didn't really have a lot in common anymore. We didn't have a whole lot in common anymore, so things kind of just didn't really, we stopped talking. And last I heard he was married, and he lives in Tennessee, and I think he has like some kids now. I'm not really sure, but I wish him the best. What was your first job? I worked at this place called Broadway Bagels, and I worked there before school in the mornings and after school in the afternoons. Not like, you know, like I'd alternate, and I basically served bagels. It was like a drive-through bagel place, and I hated it. Like, I worked the drive-through window, and I would have these fantasies. I would want to jump in people's cars and be like, take me with you, please take me with you. I don't want to be here anymore. So I knew that I probably should go, and I was 16 when I had that job. I only had that job so I could pay for my horse shows that I wanted to go to. My parents were like, if you want to go to these big horse shows, you gotta help pay for it. Which, you know, I guess was teaching me like more responsibility, whatever. Okay, what was your first car? I drove a 1995 Chevrolet Beretta. Like, the handle, like on the door, was like way up top, and it was just so ghetto. And I swear I ran that thing into everything. Sorry, Mom and Dad, because I hated it. So I just would like not care. Oh, I just hit the garage with my side mirror. Whoop, I don't care. Oh, I just like backed into a pole. Whoop, I don't care. Like, I guess it seems ungrateful at the time, but I hated that car. I know, my mom told me she wanted to get me a Jetta. And I said, why didn't you get me a Jetta? Oh well, sorry, I didn't like that car, guys. And my next car was like awesome after that. Anyway, who was the first person to text you today? I don't know. First person to text me today was, I think, my friend Lexi, who lives next door. And it was something about the dogs that I'm helping her take care of. She just got married yesterday. No, she just got married on Thursday. So, yeah, it was something about that. So, Lexi was the first person to text me today. Who was the first person you thought of this morning? And that would probably be my fiance. Just because he wasn't in bed and he was like making noises and stuff. So like on the computer, like giggling and laughing at stupid things. I don't know. He watches TV shows before I wake up in the morning. So I thought of him, and I said, I wonder where he is. And then I thought of how happy I was that it was the weekend. Whee! I don't know if it's the weekend now when I'm posting it, but it is the weekend when I'm filming it right now. Who was your first grade teacher? Her name was Mrs. Hoffman, and she was mean. She was really mean. So if you're watching this, Mrs. Hoffman, I'm sorry, but I thought you were really mean. Okay. Where did you go on your first ride on an airplane? Well, I think I went to Florida. I was a baby, like an infant, and I think my mom took me to Florida to see my grandma. So I think that was it. Who was your first best friend, and do you still talk? This is a kind of confusing question. I thought about when I was watching Rachel's video. My first best friend was probably these two girls named Shelby and Lindsay, and I think we were 3 and Shelby was 4. Lindsay and I were 3 and Shelby was 4, and I guess we were best friends, but my first best friend that I can think of off the top of my head is this girl named Amber, and yes, we do still talk. She is still my best friend, and it has been over 20 years. We've been friends for 20 years. We met in Mrs. Hoffman's class in first grade. Yes, we did, on the playground. I was the new kid in school. Yeah, and she was my friend. So, So, where was your first sleepover? Shelby and Lindsay's house, for sure. They lived across the street from me. I lived in a cul-de-sac, and I lived in the middle of the cul-de-sac, and they lived across the street. So, Shelby and Lindsay's house, for sure, was my first sleepover. What was the first concert you ever went to? I think it was Alan Jackson. I don't know. Nothing really pops to mind. I do remember I've seen Alan Jackson like 5 times, so I'm gonna go with that. He was probably my first. My first broken bone. Well, this is funny because I've broken like 8 bones in my body. I break a lot of bones. But the first one I ever broke, I was actually not even walking. We had a dog, and he or she knocked me over, and I fell and I broke my arm. There's pictures of me like with a cast on my arm. It was my right arm, and broke it, and then I guess they got rid of the dog. And I told my mom later, I'm like, why? It wasn't the dog's fault. It was an accident. But that's because I'm a huge animal lover, and I would never, obviously as an infant you can't say anything, but like as an older person I would have never encouraged them. Like, accidents happen, like big deal. Like, so they broke my arm, like who cares? But whatever, my parents got rid of it. First piercing, my ears. I have 2 holes in each ear, and I think definitely the first set was probably my first piercing. First foreign country you've gone to, I would say Mexico. I think I was 15 and I went with my godmother and godfather, and they went to Rosarito. They like drove, and I remember going down there, and the girl that was with us was like my godfather's niece or something like that. And I remember she was drinking, and she was like 15 and I was like 13 or 14, and she was drinking, and I'm like, oh my god, that's so illegal. But it was Mexico. They were letting her. First movie you remember seeing? I don't know. I don't remember. Like, probably a Disney movie, I would say. What was your first detention? When was your first detention? I'm going to have to say the one I'm thinking of is when I was in 6th grade. We all did some bad things at 6th grade camp, and some girls got to go home, like their punishment was to be sent from camp. My mom's punishment was I had to stay at camp, and if I stayed at camp, I stayed in the nurse's office, and we stayed there, and that was our punishment. And then I got home and I was grounded, and I had a bunch of like, I don't know. It's a long story, and it's not something I'm like proud of, but I'm pretty sure that was like the first detention I ever got. I never really got detentions because I was a pretty good kid. That was like a guilt by association kind of thing. You're young and you're impressionable, and like you're growing and you're like testing your boundaries, like whatever. How many times can I say whatever in this video? Who was your first roommate? It was this girl in college. I went to college at 18, and her name was Tiffany, I think. Okay, and she was only my roommate for a month because I left. I was really unhappy at college. So I left and I came home, and I lived by myself for a while, and then I moved in with Shelby, who I grew up with, and then she was like my next roommate, and then I moved in with a boyfriend after that. But so it was that girl at college, then I lived in the studio by myself back up where I was from, and then I lived with Shelby in a house that her parents had bought, and we lived there. What were the first lessons you ever took? Piano. No. Riding? It was riding. It was horseback riding lessons, and I also took piano concurrently. It could be vice versa. Piano and riding kind of went hand in hand, but I've been riding since I was 8, so yeah. I mean, I got on my first horse when I was 3, so lessons I think at 8, and then piano was when I was younger as well, so I took both. Those were my first lessons. Who was the first person beauty related on YouTube you ever watched? I didn't start watching YouTube till about 2.5 years ago, and I think the first person that I really watched was actually It's Blondie, Casey from It's Blondie, and this was when she was like at her parents' house, and she had blonde and like the blonde and the black hair, and I just loved her, and I still love her to this day. I still love watching Casey's videos, and honestly, if I was gonna do the YouTube made me do it tag, I think Casey has probably made me buy a bunch of things, so thanks a lot. Just kidding. But yeah, so she's probably the first person that I watched, and I thought, I like this YouTube thing. And I mean, I was pretty new to it. 2.5 years ago, I was still pretty new to the whole YouTube. So, and then I was like, I started making videos because I thought, well, I have stuff to teach. I have stuff to tell. So, that's how it went. That is the end of the my first time tag. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, comment below. If you didn't, maybe I'll take the video down. I don't know. I'm just joking. There's a little bit of get to know me. I am thinking about doing like a 50 random facts about me, because sometimes I think of things and I'm like, that was so random. And I think, why don't I have my own reality show? But, you know. Anyway, so like I said, feel free to comment, like this video. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye!
Only know you love her when you let her go. Only know you've been high when you're feeling low.